Cool. All right. Well, I'll kick it off. First off, thanks everybody for coming to Trader Fade this morning. This is our weekly segment where we go over a few tokens that we think are maybe a trade or possibly a fade. Today, I'm going to be joined by eKim. We also got SimDope presenting right after me. The coins today are going to be VELO, Velodrome, followed by Dent. And then right after that is eKim with Stacks. But without further ado, won't bore you guys. Let's jump into Velodrome Finance. Awesome. So, like, quick rundown on Velo. I'll give the short description taken right off their website. At its core, it's a solution for protocols and Optimism to properly incentivize liquidity for their own use cases. Um, a lot of words there, but really all it is right. Optimism's a layer two chain, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But Velo's whole impetus is to essentially ensure that there's some kind of liquidity on there in terms of their DeFi ecosystem, and that the home of that liquidity is going to be on Velo. Because of that, its sector is DeFi. Quick recap here: market cap is 27.5 mil. Fully diluted, it's 142.3 million. Its 24-hour trading volume has actually been pretty solid. It's at 7 million right now. Its all-time high is 18 cents, which, funnily enough, was hit yesterday while I was writing this, because it's still a relatively young token, launching actually only in June 2022. 30-day return, 311%. Max supply is 841.9 mil. Circulating supply is almost a clean 163 mil. Obviously, like a huge difference there. And GSS, I know you love pointing out, like, whoa, like the circulating supply is like only an eighth of what the max supply is. We'll get into that in a little bit. Again, not the first time I've done this, kind of a similar structure out the gate to Radiant. Twitter followers, 253,000. I know, Ekim, you're pretty familiar. You've shot over some tweets from them. They've been having like a bang off week last week, breaking some records and kind of killing it as of late. So per usual, Swick presents right after the pump. So it's like maybe not the best time to buy. Let's let things cool out a little bit. But that being said, kind of good timing in case you're wondering, like, what the hell is this bike themed token that's like ripping it all over my timeline? This is a great way to start. So let's dig in real quick to like the impetus of Velodrome and like what makes it so cool. Before we get into this slide here, I just kind of want to give a rundown on Velodrome, exactly what it does, why they're here, and like what they've been up to, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of what exactly it does. Long story short, looking at it, like Velodrome is an AMM. Their goal is to essentially have zero slippage, and then the big obvious thing is that they're built on Optimism, not on Ethereum. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Optimism, that's one of my bullish scenarios that we're going to dive into here. But real quick before we get ahead of ourselves, like, to offer zero slippage, right, is already a feat onto itself. So in order to do that, they essentially incentivize liquidity. And the way they do that, for anybody that's either new to these sessions, or if you're a veteran, I've done some sessions on Convex where we dove into like Convex and the curve wars. I did one about 2 weeks ago on Radiant as well, which is a similar protocol except built on Arbitrum. This one again is on Optimism, which, a little bit more detail there. Optimism is like the number 2 layer 2 for Ethereum. Number 1 being Arbitrum. The cool thing about Optimism is Optimism actually has a coin. So if you're really into the L2 scene, you can go buy some Optimism. Little hint: the next session I do is probably going to be Optimism, just because I've been spending a lot of time researching that chain. Anyways, before I get ahead of myself, VELO emits tokens on a weekly basis. Super similar to Curve, for those of you that were listening earlier. Essentially, if you hold VELO, you can lock that VELO, and then you earn VE VELO, just like you do VE Curve. And depending how long you lock up your VELO, you can receive greater emissions of VE VELO. And then you're probably wondering, like, what does VE VELO do? Well, it allows you to vote. And that's kind of the slide that we're looking at right here. This is a screenshot of voting. And what it does is, in order to ensure that liquidity, you essentially can place bribes. So let's say I'm the owner of this automated marketer USDC DOLA stable pool. I'm going to put in bribes of $47,000, including fees, into this pool, essentially saying, if you provide liquidity to this pool and you vote for me, right? You take your VELO that you've earned from locking up your VELO and you vote with it. If you vote for me, you'll get a piece of these bribes. You'll also get fees from this pool. So if you are already providing liquidity into this stable pool here, odds are, if you're also staking VELO, you want to take some of that VEVELO and vote on it. And then if you're, staking on multiple of these, as a lot of people are, kind of like spreading the wealth there, you can maybe initiate like 20% of your VEVELO is going to go into this pool. I'll do 30% into this one. This guy needs some love. And then, maybe I'll toss another 50% in here and then round it all out with a total 100 into the 3 pools that I'm already allocating to. That's like the high level of what makes this work. This is how they incentivize liquidity on their pools. So next up is these bribes, right? We talked about, if you run a pool, if you submit to a pool, you can essentially offer bribes and offer up money. This is something we've seen on Curve, something we've seen on Convex. The difference, though, is like if you're operating on Convex, you can go through Vodium, and like I'll run out of breath trying to explain to you what it takes to essentially offer bribes on those platforms. This one's kind of cool, where it's like, let's use a hypothetical. If this was on Solana, and we have a USDC Samo pool, the process right now to like get a pool set up and set up incentivization is you have to work alongside the teams, have that conversation, allocate some Samo, get it sent over, get people to submit to your pool. The cool thing about VELO is like it's completely permissionless. If you can provide a pair yourself, you can not only provide that pair, but then you can also go onto their bribe page and select your pool and then say, Samo wants people to be providing liquidity to their USDC Samo pool. We can add in a Samo bribe here. If this is on Solana, again, all like super hypothetical here. But I personally thought that was really cool. There's a lot of like closed doors in the like Ethereum DeFi space. You're either part of these huge DAOs that are kind of like the kings of these bribes that happen on Curve and Convex. You're on the teams, you have relationships, and that's how you get it done. VELO and Optimism have essentially built a tool where you can set up these pools and set up these bribes on your own. Personally, I think that's awesome. Adds like even more to the D side of DeFi, completely decentralized, and I just like really enjoy that. I think it's an awesome use case for them, and that kind of leads into like why I'm bullish. One, it's built on Optimism. I'll go into this a little bit more next week when I present on Optimism, but long story short, it's an L2. Essentially, we've all heard the story about the issues ETH had scaling. There was actually a team called Plasma Group about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, that was assigned to like kind of handling the scaling of ETH in order to make it faster. Obviously, that's like quite the beast to tackle. And I don't want to say they failed in their efforts, but they definitely had a hard time doing it, and they kind of evolved into saying, let's just build an L2 and we'll name that L2 Optimism. And Optimism is exactly that. It's a way that helps ETH scale. It essentially allows like high speed transactions, really low fees, but you still have the security of Ethereum, right? Like that's what like these L2s are all about. And then because of that, they offer the optimistic rollups, which is a whole thing we'll go into next week. That alone, building an Optimism, is super bullish for me for a few reasons. As I've been presenting on like a few of these tokens, and I know like Ekim and GSS hear about it all the time, gas fee is like very real. I know it's a meme at this point where it's like, oh, like Ethereum has gas, it costs so much money to do anything. But when you start really messing with some of these protocols like Convex and Curve, just to like give an example, the other day I tried pulling my Curve rewards, and to pull my rewards, it was going to cost me $48. And you're probably thinking like, oh, you're probably pulling out a ton of money. No, I was trying to take out $32 worth of rewards, and it was going to cost me $48 to do that. So any reward I've earned from staking my CVX and Convex, if I wanted to pull it out now, was going to cost me $48. Essentially eating everything I've earned, and just like paying for a transaction for the sake of transactions. Pretty ridiculous. And it's a huge hamper on DeFi right now. If you're not messing with like serious amounts of money or have serious amounts of money to burn, it's an uphill battle. Which is what led me to VELO and Optimism. I can play the same games I'm playing with Curve and Convex, and it doesn't cost me an arm and a leg to move that stuff around. If I want to harvest my earnings and my emissions, I can do so, and it's going to cost me like 16 cents instead of costing me $48 like it did on ETH. Next one is it's already dominating. It's currently the eighth largest DEX in all of DeFi, not just Optimism. It's hands down the number one DeFi protocol on Optimism compared to everybody else. And shout out to eKim actually for last night shooting me over a tweet that they sent out. They just broke $250 million in TVL. There's really nobody else in Optimism like fighting the same fight as them. There's obviously like the layer 2 versions and kind of wrapped versions of Curve and Uniswap that they're competing with. But at the end of the day, in terms of like a native Optimism based DeFi protocol, it is Velodrome and everybody else is in the dust. I really value that kind of like dominance in an ecosystem because if you're on Optimism, you can almost make like this one-to-one parity of if I believe Optimism is going to go up, then it's a no-brainer that Velodrome is going to follow it just because they completely dominate that space. Third bull case for me is it's kind of a combination of all these products. Like I said, all these protocols that I've already done some serious research into, I'm heavily involved with. I'm involved in their communities, whether it's Convex, Curve, Uniswap, Radiant, which I talked about, which is on Arbitrum. This is kind of a combination of all of them. And like the way that kind of works is like they've essentially drawn on the best elements of like Curve, Convex, Uni V2, not V3. And they kind of take those and like they slam them all into this single protocol VELO, right? Like it's a public good, it's a protocol's protocol. They have really good active liquidity because of the rewards they use. So they kind of used the Curve Wars success there, saying, hey, this VE Curve thing works really well. Let's just do VE VELO. That works great. Also, let's kind of operate the same way that the Curve AMM does because it provides liquidity, and we can have 100% of fees go to the voters. Nobody else keeps any of that. And then, you also have the scenario where it's like Curve falls a little short. So let's add in some of the things that we see on Uni V2, right? So we can add this like level of concentrated liquidity on top of it. And then to take it a step further, we really like the way Convex handles everything. They have an awesome UX and they have a great voting system. Let's add that in as well. So you have like 3 protocols that I'm a huge fan of slammed into one protocol that is completely dominating the space it exists in. For me, that was like the ultimate bull scenario, which kind of made me be like, okay, I'm going to dig into this and I'm going to try to get involved in this ecosystem and as well as this protocol. Ekim, I saw you came off mute for a second. Do you have a question?
No, sorry, I just hit the button. My bad.
Oh, good. I was excited. I was like, oh, sick. Ekim's got a question. Cool. Let's dig into some of these upcoming catalysts. One, Velodrome V2. I feel like every time I do any kind of presentation on a DeFi protocol, it's always like V2's around the corner, V3's coming, V47's almost here. Which is cool, right? Like they're always iterating. I have no problem with that. But quick heads up on their Velodrome V2. It's coming soon. They actually just started publishing a weekly article about what they've worked on so far, and I like how candid they are. The first article is actually about like a failure they had trying to assign ENSs to all of their contracts. They explain how difficult it was in case another project has the same idea, walk through the pitfalls of doing so, and then announced why like that's not going to be part of V2. There's something to be said about a team that like, shows you how the sausage is made, for lack of a better term. But the big pieces of V2 is going to be improved user experience. They're trying to get a little more dev friendly. One of the biggest feedbacks I was able to see is like their SDK was garbage, and I think that's something that we've seen across the board for a lot of protocols in general. I know like team members that we work with have a hard time sometimes reading through some of these SDKs and documentation. So makes me happy to hear that they're really pushing to make it dev friendly. They're going to simplify the architecture, and they're also moving entirely on chain. Funnily enough, Velodrome is very, very new and very young. Again, it's only been around for like 9 months, I believe. Yeah, 9 months, end of June. And some of the stuff they're doing on the website, like calculations, had been done manually. All of that is moving to on-chain, which will obviously make things way faster and more accurate and just timely. The next upcoming catalyst is the Tour de Optimism. Essentially, they want to provide more incentive. Obviously, it's like you have these curves, you have these radiants, people are locked in, they're familiar with these tools. It's on another chain, it's on Ethereum, it's on Arbitrum. Like, why should I move over to Optimism? So you have to provide a little more incentive there. So they're going to start doing things like lock bonuses, vote boosting, pool loan liquidity bonuses, bribe matching. And there's a little table down here at the bottom in case anybody's interested to see exactly what that looks like. Next is the team. Everybody loves the Docs team. I actually, while doing some research here, there's a ton of video, especially with these four. This is a screenshot actually of their most recent podcast that they did with Bankless. And funnily enough, if you are like listening to this and you're excited as I am, they're going to be on Bankless again tomorrow. So if you want to get to know a little bit more and like hear it straight from the horse's mouth, not like me, feel free to hear it from the team. And it'll most likely be these four guys. It's Gabagool in charge of BD, Alex Cutler's their ops guy, Taoist Tokenomics, and Jack is their strategy and BD guy. You're probably wondering, like, where the hell do these guys come from? One, they're part of Plasma. Two, they were actually close cohorts of Andre from Phantom, if anybody's familiar with Phantom. I think Ekim is. You've talked about it quite a few times, but Phantom actually launched a protocol called Solidly. Had some issues at launch, didn't really become what they wanted it to be. They wanted to recreate the Curve Wars. So that team kind of stepped away from Solidly and said, how can we ensure that we launch something like Solidly, but it's successful this time around, right? Like, let's learn from our lessons and the pitfalls, and just like make sure this one kind of kicks ass out the gate. And in my opinion, they've done a fantastic job. I'm also a huge sucker for Docs teams. Next is price targets. As you guys know, not much of a trader. I always feel weird about posting price targets. Who knows? I don't like making promises, but I was able to pull up two that I thought were like somewhat relevant. And again, like, don't get married to these. I know I'm not. But target one is Convex. Like I said, this does everything Convex does and more. It's if you jammed Curve, Convex, and Uniswap into one package. Current market cap of Convex is 482.6 million. This is like in the trenches of a bear market. Convex has done far and beyond this. I think all-time high price for Convex was like $60, and I think we're looking at like $6 right now. If it ever equals Convex current market cap, not its all-time high, it's going to be at 2.98. I mean, that's like a 19x, almost 20x. Pretty solid price movement in my book, at least. Next is Curve. The bones of VELO is essentially how can we be Curve on Optimism and do Curve better than Curve. Really hard task, and I applaud them for even trying. But I did some math there, and Curve's all-time high market cap was 2.5 billion. Where we're at right now, as of this morning, VELO is sitting at 2.8% of Curve, right? So VELO's market cap is 2.8% of Curve's current market cap. If we hold that ratio and we take that 2.8% of Curve's market cap at its all-time high, that would give us a price of $4.52 for VELO. And just a quick reminder, VELO's sitting currently, as of this morning, at 0.15. That's 2,913% increase, which is like absolutely insane. I mean, if this thing hits like $2, I'll shit my pants. So super pumped to see that like there's some kind of math there that like maybe lines up. If we hold this 2.8% ratio, it could be a really, really fun bull market for VELO holders. And then the final piece, competitors. You've heard me say their names 1,000 times already, and I want to make sure I leave time for SimDope and Ekim, so I won't go too deep into it. But these guys have like insane competition. Convex, Uniswap, Curve, Radiant's been kicking ass lately. One of my favorite tokens that I own. And it's like when you're kind of swinging at giants, it seems like the cards are stacked against you. That being said, outside of Radiant, Convex, Uniswap, and Curve are all built on Ethereum. And like I said, the gas fees hurt unless you have a lot of money, you can't play. And VELO, as I've played with it, really feels like Curve Convex for the people, where like your average retail investor can actually play around with this and make some money doing it. where I can't always say that's the same for Convex and Curve. So future super bright, serious competition, and I think if the past few weeks are any kind of indicator to what we can expect from VELO in the future looks extremely bright for them. But without further ado, I know we wanted to keep it to 15 minutes per because we got 3 presenters today. I will pass the torch over to SimDope if he's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, man. Yeah, feel free to share your screen again. Everybody, if you have any questions, let's save them for the end after all 3 have presented, and we'll hang out in the chat and keep talking.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you guys see it?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. So loading. 1 second. All right. So I'll be talking on the Dent Wireless Limited with the ticker DNT. About Dent. Dent is a short description. Dent is a global exchange for mobile data, and it's powered by eSIM. It empowers smartphone users to sell, buy, and donate their excess mobile data just like any other commodity. And the sector in which it is telecommunication, which is built on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, recently, like a few seconds ago, the market cap was around 128 million, and with a fully diluted market cap of 130 million. It has a trading volume of 42.5 million. As of yesterday, it did have a higher rise of over, I think, 70 or so, 70 million, but it has a little downside today. So, yeah. All-time high of 0.106, dating back to like September 2018. And it has a 30-day return, which I checked on Trading Views, like 57.61. Has a mass supply of 100 billion tokens for a project like this that has to do more users. So it's understandable why it has this high max supply. Currently, it has a speculating supply of 99 billion, and the Twitter followers are 127.3k followers. They launched their mainnet on the 15th of November 2017. So it's pretty much an old project, but I was just snooping around CoinMarketCap and I saw it. So they have this ICO, the initial coin offering, which began on July 11, 2017. It did last for 2 weeks, and they raised approximately $4.3 million. And at that time, one Ethereum was 400,000 Dent. So which made the Dent ICO price for one around $0.0006. Now, more on Dent Wireless, it's actually like a very big platform. I try my best to reduce the data that I got, but so it has a mission to liberate mobile data by basically helping people to avoid paying high amount of fees for data roaming fees and etc. And also you can monetize your data as it goes back to you if it expires, unlike every normal telecommunication data plan. So the platform, like I said earlier, was built on Ethereum blockchain, which issues an ERC20 token, and the token is used as a payment method for the mobile services. They have a mobile app which is already available on iOS for Android, for iPhones and Android devices, and they have over 7 million users worldwide. So it's pretty much a big project. Now, on their app features, they have the Dent data, where users can buy international data packages for eSIM capable devices, that's embedded SIM capable devices. They have the Dent marketplace where you can buy and sell that mobile data with the Dent tokens. They have Dent Voice, which allows users to call anyone anywhere, I think in like 70 countries, using Dent tokens. So they also have Dent Earn, and this Dent Earn is where daily you can earn rewards for like completing various tasks, and you get free Dent rewards. When I opened an account, I think I was gifted like 10 Dent or so. So yeah. Moving on, more on, like I said, on Dent, it has a peer-to-peer network, and that actually changes the telecommunication business for them, because in three ways they eliminate the cost for data roaming. The second one is they pave way for more inclusive data sharing, where you can actually share your data with other people. And individuals like users, you and I, and Internet of Things devices can automate the buying process using data exchange and get the best deals, which is probably like not probably, which is actually a bit cheaper than normal telecommunication providers. Now they have core products, and one of them is Dent eSIM. Based on its eSIM, and you don't need to use like the physical normal SIM cards. This offers people or users the opportunity to like get internet connection in 70 countries worldwide currently, and that data actually has a validity of 365 days, which is pretty awesome. Unlike monthly data subscriptions, by the way. They have Dent Teams, one of their products, which enables mobile data sharing with people or multiple devices. And basically, I could share data with my devices or with people, and it could last for over a year too, like I said. So more on the Dent product, they have Dent Gigastore. This is actually where you can buy and resell the data packages. And also you can actually integrate the API in your website if you want to like, own your own store or point of sale store too. They have Dent Swap, where you can swap the Dent tokens that you have for crypto and vice versa. And also you can earn fees from contributing to the liquidity pools in the swap. They have also the Dent Exchange. Now, Dent Exchange is actually like the major component of the Dent ecosystem. And this is actually similar to like the stock market, Forex, and similar markets where you can meet. Here now in Dent Exchange, you can meet and conduct deals with the help of the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain. And it has like 7 components, which are actually like here: instrument repository, market maker algorithms, pricing data, order management, portfolio management, order execution, and the Dent exchange parachain. Now, how Dent actually works is that, based on all these technologies that come together, like the Dent exchange, the Ethereum smart contract, the mobile apps, it helps you to like, move through the data issues that major cities have. Like in Africa here now, we have issues in terms of data. So this actually solves a lot of problems. And okay, okay. And the trading side of this is, this connects data exchange, data exchange, to the telecommunications like Verizon, AT&T, and mobile users, and that way you can actually like access data easily. So head on the exchange, the Dent exchange use case. So now for these Dents to actually like function properly, they need a large consumer base, because the telecommunication industry is very much competitive. And this way, people who use Dent are actually the ones who bring in users, and kind of like stealing competition from other, telecommunication companies. But yeah, this way they actually like bringing more users into the Dent ecosystem. And they do this and they facilitate their transactions in 3 ways, which are like the user to user data transactions, where you can sell your data peer to peer basically, but you can sell your data to anyone, and they would receive your bid and approve the transaction, and that actually goes through the Dent exchange parachain. But kind of like reduced more on that because there's a workflow on it. But yeah, so the second one is the peer-to-peer international data package transfer in roaming situations where you travel to another country or another continent altogether. So this one now it's similar to the user-to-user data transactions, but here you would eventually match with like a bid and the order will be fulfilled. And Dent Exchange will coordinate the activities of the acquired package. Then we have the IDO, which is the initial data offerings by telecommunications. And this is actually where the Dent platform they actually handle, because they handle the IDOs as well as act as the visual operators. So here they provide depth to the market with their own package offerings. That's their own data package offerings, and any proceeds basically that they get, for any proceeds that they get, is actually revenue to Dent Wireless. So, okay, I think I skipped the slide. Yeah, so I brought out a simple, let me say, a simple use case example, and it's more like, let's say eSIM now is a US carrier, eSIM, and he owns over 2,000 Dent tokens, and let's say he travels to Australia and he cannot use his SIM there, obviously, so he now has an eSIM and he has 2,000 Dent tokens, so he accesses the Dent marketplace at anywhere he could basically find a Wi-Fi and buy data through the data marketplace. And let's say now, based on the user-to-user transactions, we have Ghost, who's like in Australia. The Ghost, if you hear this, just the reference. So Mike now needs no extra agreement, any carrier at all, no SIM card, nothing. He doesn't need to swap anything. He only needs to log in, buy data, place his bid, and then Ghost sees it, accepts the bid without even, meeting or something. So here now he gets his data and in another country altogether, another continent, and he could easily just do whatever with it in an Australian network. Meanwhile, Ghost, he can spend the Dent tokens wherever he likes, probably go to Europe for a summer holiday or anything. And that's pretty much it. That's the example. So the reasons why I'm bullish now, throughout the years, Dent has actually formed so many partnerships. One of the silent partnerships that they had was with Apple, but it wasn't in their website anyways. But I kind of like found out that they're partners with Apple. So what actually got me is, I'm a Samsung fan anyway. So, they have this partnership with Samsung and the added Knox security. I don't know if you guys know it. It keeps the authentication data locked away and safe and accessible, which is bullish for me because, partnering with Apple and Samsung, I mean, who knows what next? So another bullish reason for me is the roaming fees, where you don't need to pay excess or exorbitant prices on your phone bills, because I know people who, if they're roaming, the fees are basically really high. So that eliminates that. Another thing is, there's no contract or long-term commitment with any telecom provider. You only buy your data and you pay as you go, basically. So that is bullish, and no price chaos. Like I said earlier, you have a package and it comes like in several sizes. I think 4 sizes, yeah. And that's like in 70 countries, United States, and so many other countries. Some countries too in Africa that has a validity of 365 days. And another bullish reason is, I mean, you might think probably the network service might be low, but it's actually very fast. And I've gone through their post on IG and post on Twitter and stuff, and it actually does offer fast connectivity. Now, on the potential catalyst, so they've launched this decentralized, they call it decentralized traffic, where eSIM users can enjoy quick local surfing experience, and the platform plans to move the traffic to decentralized multiple local internet breakout users like this. If you check the map, so this is where they are, and launching a network like this creates more traffic and it's good. So the next one is the decentralized infrastructure. They have this. They partnered with the Basic Internet Foundation, for rural areas. without network service, mostly in Africa. Yeah, you can find more of that. So it's called gigabytes in Africa. And what this does is that they're testing and building the Dent nodes. They call it Dent net nodes that run in a hardware device. And these nodes will use a satellite connection, just like Starlink, as a backhaul and distribute data to local areas in Africa and other places where they can't probably access data. Now on the team, they actually doxed, but I couldn't add their images because of like where to add them. But the founder is Tero, is from Finland and has over 20 years of experience in his career. He's among those who first developed the direct mobile operating payment systems into consumer applications. And being a specialist in such transactional systems, he is the mastermind of all tech at Dent. And we have the co-founder Mikko Linamaki, I think also from Finland too. Yeah, so he is also a guru in fundamental mobile architecture and a big asset for the project. And we have another co-founder, Andreas Vola, who is the specialist too in the team with over 12 years of developing apps for I think he's the co-founder for TDS Software, yeah, and he developed apps for Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and the rest, making him also an expert in mobile CRM systems. That should be like consumer relations maintenance, yeah. So the next one is Henrik. He is a chief technical officer and has specialization in security and communication systems with more than 10 years of experience. On the next slide, I couldn't bring up I'm not a TA guru like EKM or JSS, so I could actually bring out the major charts and have the lines and all. But this one from CoinMarketCap shows the highest market cap they ever had, which was around April 6, 2021, and they had over 1.80 billion market cap size. If you can look at the charts, and that day they had a 24-hour volume of $540 million, which is quite big. So the next part is the price target. Now, currently the Dent price is 0.00001298, which is actually like over 1,886 from the all-time low, which is very low. And this was like March 2020. So now the previous all-time high was 0.1 that dates back to September 2018. And because currently they're in 0.001298, if they go back, return to their all-time high, it'll be over 7,500%. And with the way the eSIM, advancement is going now, I think it's something that probably happened very soon because more people are actually like hopping into the eSIM cycle. Now I'll talk more on their competitors, but like the closest that they have as a rival, I would say, is Telcoin. And currently Telcoin has, as of today, they have a market cap of $180 million. And if Dent should have the market cap of Telcoin right now, they would have a 1.46x. Not so big, but yeah, and which is like 46%. So this is actually their closest rival, and they're actually doing pretty well. Now more on the competitors. I think when I checked, this was like where they were on CoinMarketCap, their numbers. Well, Telcoin is Ethereum based, also basically the same thing as Dent. Electronium, they are also a mobile phone based crypto platform. And what actually got me was that they were formed same July 2017, and they launched they're the first UK based cryptocurrency after completing $40 million ICO, which is huge as at that time. So this made me add them. And the closest is Mobius, which is basically built on Stellar Network, yeah, and also a mobile payments into apps and businesses. They are more focused on the commerce side. So yeah. Now, on the risk and downside, like almost every crypto platform, there, regulation is something huge, and I think that's like almost one major threat in every cryptocurrency. And should anything happen, we don't pray for that to happen either, but should anything happen, it definitely affects the price and the utility. And another downside is the operator slowness, where the existing market of the mobile operators, it can take longer than anticipated to get the marketplace filled with supplier sides, because how dense they work is the users bring the telecommunication operators to them. So it might take time, but with more adoption, that it will be easily said and done. So I think this is the end of my this is the end. So that's it. That's all I have on Dent Wireless Limited. Thank you.
Sweet, dude.
Oh yeah, man, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. For anybody that doesn't know, this is the first time we've had a community member and member of the DAO present up here. Normally, it's just been me, Ecamm GSS. But dude, Simdope, for being the first community member, you absolutely killed it. And again, for anybody listening, if you have any interest to do what Simdope did and get up here and talk about a project you're passionate about, please feel free to do so.
Yeah,
All right.
well done, Sim. Crushed
Here.
it.
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. Honestly, thought I've never heard that name before. I've heard of Helium, stuff like Telcoin, and some of the older blockchains, but it's crazy. I didn't even hear about Dent. So always good to learn. Definitely take a look. The tokenomics look pretty good. You got some interesting stuff going on. So, all right, let's get started on mine. Try and keep it under an hour. I don't know. Might take over 13 minutes here, but
Never.
never under an hour, never ever. All right. If you want to just let me know if you can see my screen, then we'll get started on it.
Yes, sir. Looks good.
Okay. Dope. For this week, I decided to do stacks. There we go. Essentially, Stacks is an open source network of DApps and smart contracts that are built on Bitcoin. Stacks actually unleashes Bitcoin's full potential instead of just a digital gold or maybe the I guess the safe money in crypto, right? It allows for programs and smart contracts to be built on top of it, which I think is actually honestly pretty innovative, and also something you don't see a lot. Normally, with a new chain or project coming up, they're building on their own chain. Maybe that's a new consensus mechanism or whatnot. But Stacks is pretty unique in that they're building on Bitcoin, one of the oldest cryptos out there, the oldest. It is in the infrastructure and smart contract sector, so it's more focused on smart contracts, but there is some infrastructure pieces. Obviously, building with Bitcoin, you need to have a stable and secure network throughout Bitcoin when you're using Stacks or Bitcoin in the ecosystem. It's currently sitting at $961 million market cap, with a fully diluted looking like 1.3 billion. It actually spiked. I'm kind of pissed off because it spiked around, I don't know, was this 2 days ago or maybe even a day ago. It had a good 90% pump. Luckily for me, I grabbed some before the pump and I kind of sold early into it. But I'm looking to reaccumulate there, so whatever. But trading volume is off the charts at 630 million. Normally, it's probably sitting around closer to 100 million, but off of the pump and all the volume, it's been ridiculous. You'll see on the chart. I mean, the volume spike is something I've never seen before. But current price, it's around 70 cents. It might be lower. I put this in, I think, late last night or early this morning, so obviously some volatility there. But all-time high was around $3.40. We're currently sitting at like an 80% retracement from that, so it's not too crazy. But obviously it would be bad if you bought at all-time high. And they spiked just like everything else late 2021. So 30-day return, you're sitting at a 160%. max supply of 1.8 billion tokens. Circulating is 1.3 billion. They actually have 140K Twitter followers, and they launched in 2021. So some of the key features of Stacks, I'll go through a couple slides here, but one of the main keys here is the proof of transfer consensus mechanism. So this allows Stacks to leverage Bitcoin security and enable apps and programs to use Bitcoin state. Proof of transfer is actually an extension of the old version of it, which is proof of burn. Essentially, this allows miners, right? So you can look in this graph. It's different than staking, right? So staking is you're validating transactions through delegating your stake to a validator and earning a yield on that, right? So instead here, which proof of transfer is using is stacked or stacking instead of staking, which is kind of confusing. So I just want to make that clear. But essentially, you can stack your STX, which allows you to receive Bitcoin in rewards, which is kind of unique, right? Normally with the proof of stake or even proof of work, right? You're mining or you're staking this coin and you're getting the coin in return. You know, obviously the yield depends on whatever protocol it is, but with this one you're actually getting Bitcoin in return, which then kind of plays into the whole like Bitcoin ecosystem and narrative around, I don't want to say like Bitcoin maximalism, but obviously if you're a Bitcoin fan, you're gonna kind of want to accumulate more Bitcoin or stats. So I thought this was a nice little logo graphic to throw in here, kind of just visualize it for you. Another key feature of Stacks is SPTC. So SPTC is a pegged asset to Bitcoin. It does not rely on a centralized platform, right? So it's not a wrap to Bitcoin, which is different than WBTC, which is, I believe, Wormhole's wrap to Bitcoin. And that can be found on places like Ethereum. And I think they actually are bringing it to Solana as well. But this is not that, right? A wrap to Bitcoin is essentially reliant on Wormhole, which is, you know, one entity, and obviously we're trying to get into a decentralized future here. We don't want to have one central entity kind of controlling these assets. And so with SBTC, it kind of allows you to use Bitcoin in the ecosystem and not have to rely on one central, you know, I don't want to say like entity, but, you know, just a player in the game, right? You want to have your own asset, not your keys, not your crypto. This allows Bitcoin to be freely moved throughout smart contracts and protocols built on Stacks, right? So not only can you use Stacks, like STX, the token itself in the Stacks network, you can also use SPTC. Once again, just playing into the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? If you want to, you know, earn Bitcoin, you can kind of use Bitcoin in the ecosystem. It's kind of cool, right? It's not all on Stacks. You can also use Bitcoin as well. Some of the properties that make it unique are it's open and decentralized, censorship resistant. You can get in and out pretty well within the peg. It has an on-chain Bitcoin oracle. It's secure and it's commercially viable. Again, I'll kind of give you a quick overview of stacking. So this rewards stacks. It's kind of confusing because you're stacking stacks. Just kind of weird, but it allows you to stack your stacks in reward for some Bitcoin. The APR, APY on this and the yield is dependent on the current price of Bitcoin and stacks itself. The numbers that I found throughout multiple places were around 8%, right? So they have centralized pools like Binance or Coinbase where you can essentially lock your stacks up for a certain amount of time, earn a yield on that. And then there's also like pools where, you know, decentralized pools where you can float your stacks and earn a yield on that as well. This is kind of built into the proof of transfer system and consensus mechanism that they have. So yeah, just an interesting part there. Why I'm bullish on stacks, right? So essentially Bitcoin is this digital gold or commodity, as someone say, like a store of value. Obviously, everyone knows about Bitcoin; it's a very big name, and they're kind of playing into that narrative as well. But with Stacks, you can actually bring different decentralized applications and DeFi protocols into Bitcoin, allowing some of that money to be utilized instead. Right? You can look at Bitcoin as, I think at the peak of last bull run, it hit $1 trillion market cap. Essentially, all that money isn't flowing into protocols. It's not being used. Right? It's just, you're sitting on the ledger. Hopefully you're not letting it sit on a centralized exchange, but that's just sitting there, right? You're not utilizing it. You're not doing anything with it. Stacks kind of unlocks that feature for people to go in, similar to how you would use a decentralized application on Ethereum or Solana. And kind of earn some yield, or you can loan out, or you can borrow, whatnot. There's a ton of different things you can do there. As well as, right now we're sitting at a $300 billion market cap of Bitcoin. So, that's certainly some money that could be captured by Stacks and some of their platforms. Another part of my bullish thesis is the ordinals. If you haven't heard, by now, ordinals have been pretty big on the timeline and around the crypto space. I've heard a ton of things. I've heard a couple of interviews. I think I watched one with Bankless last night. That was pretty interesting to hear about. But right, ordinals are a digital asset similar to an NFT, but it's not exactly an NFT. That is on the Bitcoin network. They've just surpassed, I believe, 150,000 ordinals, right? And that's off of surpassing 100K, I think, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. So, obviously that number is rising pretty fast. These are catching fire. I don't know if Crypto Rec is here, but I've heard him talk about some ordinals. I think he was picking up some like Bitcoin machines. I'm not too familiar with the project, but obviously with it catching fire, you're going to see a ton of innovation and a ton of new projects building, trying to capture the market share there. But I believe this could push some real innovation and money into Stacks. Obviously, we've all seen Solana, even Ethereum blow up with NFTs, right? We've seen marketplaces like OpenSea, Magic Eden. They're huge, right? They're sponsoring major events. They have tons of cash. They're no joke in the space, and everyone kind of knows their name. And the reason I'm bullish on Stacks here with the ordinals is, maybe that can transfer over to Stacks. Maybe an NFT community thrives on Stacks. Maybe people love ordinals, and that's a potential catalyst for the next run. Similar to how we saw like DAA and SMBs and all of them run during Sol's bull run. So super exciting there. Just taking some statistics from DeFi Llama, which I thought were interesting, is the total value locked. So obviously comparing it to giants like Ethereum and other L1s, which have booming DeFi ecosystems, Stacks doesn't really compare in terms of side-to-side comparison, but it is just an interesting chart to look at here. In the top, you have total value locked in USD, and then on the bottom, you have total value locked in STX value. With the recent pump, that's why you're seeing like this huge kind of increase in total value locked. I think that's just the price pumping Bitcoin itself, which then brings up the USD value of it. So that's not exactly super clear to look at, but when you take a look at the bottom here, it kind of makes more sense, and you're like, okay, from 2022, they had a good spike up to 50 million, and they're now sitting at somewhere near half of that at 25. Moving on to some TA and price targets. Once again,